Arsenal 2, Tottenham Hotspur 1. This is the fifth time Arsenal have done a Premier League double over Tottenham, and it felt so good after the week we just had. We had a controversial goal, we had some brilliant individual performances, and we had all the tension that a North London derby warrants. Let's get into it. Yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage. Arsenal 2, Tottenham 1, and suddenly the mood feels so different, doesn't it? It is 7:05 the day after the game, and the smile has not left my face yet. We have had a really tough period at Arsenal. We've had injuries, we've had silly refereeing decisions, and we hadn't had a win in 3 games. You know, we forget that we drew to Brighton just before the Newcastle and Manchester United week. So it had been a while, and it had been painful, and it had been tough. And I think this is exactly what we needed. Mikel Arteta said it before the game. It's the perfect time to play Tottenham because we all know what it means, and the stadium certainly knew what it meant last night. They were loud, they were up for it, and the players seemed up for it as well. We're going to get through everything this morning. We're going to go through I'm going to start with some feeling around the club now, how this result changes things. We'll go through the classic match review, starting with the lineup, first half, second half, the key flashpoints, and then I want to talk about some individual performances. That's not something we tend to spend a lot of time on, but I do want to spend a lot of time on a couple of individuals in our back four from yesterday who were just incredible. Just absolutely incredible, and especially one particular 18-year-old who is absolutely blowing my mind at the moment. Absolutely blowing my mind. But like I said, let's start with the overall feeling around the club. And this is a North London derby, right? So you can never afford to drop points in them. Never. They are must-win games, and any result that isn't a win is a bad result, if you ask me. Even when Tottenham were at their very best and they had Harry Kane and Son and they were flying, it was never enough to go and get a draw. It was never enough to just say, oh, well, they're a good team at the moment, so we got beat. That is how Arsenal fans feel, and that's how the Arsenal players have to feel. Now that they're rubbish, again, it's even more important. But what added extra layers to this? Well, so many things added extra layers to this. First of all, we'd seen Nottingham Forest take points off Liverpool the day before. And that's, we have had a real problem capitalising when Liverpool have dropped points. They have dropped points, and then we have dropped points at the same weekends. Quite often, us playing after them. So, we couldn't do that again. If we wanted to be in anything this year, especially after the week we just had with going out of the FA Cup and all but going out of the League Cup with a 2-0 defeat at home, it's going to be tough to turn that around, then we had to go and capitalise, and we had to cut that gap, even though it's still a big gap. I mean, it's 4 points, but theoretically, if Liverpool beat Everton, which you'd expect them to do, it's 7. But I'm just starting to, I don't know, maybe have some level of hope. I looked at the fixtures this morning. Liverpool's next game is away at Brentford. That's a tough game. That is a really tough game. And I'm just, is there a bit of life in me that's thinking, okay, well, we have really spoken about our schedule a lot this year and how tough it's been for us. And what we might see is the reverse of that for Liverpool now in the second half of the season. They've got to go to a lot of these teams who are top half teams away from home and have a go and beat them. That's going to be really challenging for them, just like the challenge that we've faced. So let's hope we can do something there. Let's hope Liverpool continue to drop points. Of course, I've already mentioned it a couple of times, off the back of the Newcastle and Manchester United results, we couldn't have a third loss. We couldn't have a third defeat in a week. I don't even think a draw would have satisfied it. We had to go and win. And James McNicholas, Gunner Blog, he's also on the Arse Blog podcast, he made an absolutely fantastic comment on his On the Whistle video, so go and watch that if you like that sort of stuff. He said, and he described it as, we have got a pulse now. And he was referencing that, our season would have flatlined if we lost last night, but our season now has a pulse, and I think it's the perfect way to look at it. we're not, in the driving seat now because we've beaten Tottenham. Absolutely no way. And it doesn't take away from the fact that we've gone out of 2 cup competitions, or all but gone out of 2 cup competitions in a very short period of time. However, can we springboard from here? Can this be a result that sends us forward into the next run of games? We've got City coming up at the start of February. We've got Villa in our next game, and a couple of Champions League games in there against Dinamo Zagreb and Girona as well. It's a big task, but if you can get 4 wins there, we're going to feel absolutely incredible again. Absolutely incredible, because Tottenham, Aston Villa, Man City as a Premier League run is very challenging. Make no mistakes about that. Yes, they're at home, all 3 of them, but if we can capitalise, that would be massive. Absolutely massive. And I have tickets for the Arsenal Man City game, so I really hope we do win that. Into the match then, let's go through the lineup. And a big surprise in the lineup for me, with Raheem Sterling starting. It was a front 3 of Sterling, Havertz and Trossard. And the reason it was a surprise to me is because we were expecting Tottenham to come out and really play, really leave space in behind. And that's where Martinelli thrives. We've seen a couple of times, especially against Newcastle, there were a couple of moments where we found him with the long ball, going in behind as Newcastle tried to play us, especially in the first half, and his pace was really, really useful in that scenario. Like, it really created a couple of chances for us. And I thought, Tottenham are going to try and do this. They're going to have a really weakened defence. To be fair to them, they have injuries that would cripple any Premier League team. To not have your first choice keeper and 3 of your first 4 centre-backs, no one's coping with that. And I thought, well, let's unleash Martinelli's pace on them, and he's shown some signs of life over the last few weeks. Probably not to the level that we want, but he has shown some signs of life. Let's have a go with him. Let's let him exploit the spaces. But they went with Sterling. I think I'll come on to Sterling when I go into the individual performances bit. Just a quick note here. I don't think he was truly terrible. He did some bits well, but there were some flaws to his game, which I think we'll speak about in a bit. Trossard, obviously, he got the goal, and Kai Havertz really was our only option up top. He had a game where he just looked a little bit lacking confidence again, but no drop in his work ethic, no drop in his build-up play for me. I thought he did those bits still really, really well, and was maybe just a bit timid in front of goal again. The midfield was Partey, Rice and Odegaard. I think that really has been our best midfield so far this year, so no complaints there. And the back 5, Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel and Miles Lewis-Skelly. And like I said at the top, some of those guys were immense. Absolutely immense. So we will get to their individual performances, but let's start with the first half. And it was a strange first 25 minutes, wasn't it? Because you could superimpose those 25 minutes over so many of our games this year. And what I mean by that is the other team were not in it. Spurs were not in it. And we've had this so many times where we are suffocating teams. And TNT was covering the game in England, and they were really commenting, really focusing on the fact that actually Spurs can't get out. They needed to do something different. We had all the territory, all the domination, all of the ball. We didn't create many chances. I mean, Miles Lewis-Skelly put Raheem Sterling through on the 2nd minute, and Sterling, I'm not sure if he's thinking, I'm going to try and go around the keeper here. They had that Kinski in goal, who he had a really tough game, I thought. There were moments where he looked good and he was assertive coming out to punch corners, but then once that sort of failed for him and we scored from a corner, actually Kai Havertz put a lot of pressure on him when he was on the ball. We did a really good job of building that tension through the crowd, and he had a tough game, but like I say, Sterling went through in the 2nd minute. I think there was a chance for Trossard early on that was blocked by Dragisin. So we were starting to build chances. We were starting to turn that domination into something more tangible, although we hadn't scored yet. And I was sat there thinking, okay, this is quite good. We're doing quite well here. And then we have a sloppy 5 minutes. And yeah, I mean, it takes... There is a moment where Tottenham go down the left. I think it's basically the first time they get into our half with the ball. And Jed Spence provides a fantastic cross with the outside of his right foot. Gabriel an essential touch to get it away from Dominic Solanke. That was in the 21st minute, and then in the 24th minute they score, and we're absolutely maximally punished. I think we should be doing better. I think at least one of our players needs to be getting out to close Son down, and be closer to that shot. I know that there is obviously a block which ends up being a deflection from, I think it's Saliba. A lot of people are saying it was off Partey. I think Saliba knocks it round Partey, actually. And it goes in, and it was, like I say, you could superimpose that over so many games this year. Fulham is the one that springs to mind, where we are completely in control and the other team get forward, have a moment, one singular moment, and we are maximally punished for it. I hate to say it, but there's another day where that just goes straight at Saliba, doesn't go anywhere, and we're not talking about it. We're not even thinking about it. But that's not the way our season's going. That's not the way defending our goal is going at the moment. It's just how it is. We are getting maximally punished for everything that's coming our way. And I sat there and I feared the worst, really, at 1-0 down. But it was a fantastic response from Arsenal. I think, in those moments after the goal, there was maybe some trepidation. And I want to give credit to Martin Odegaard for his performance, because I thought he continued to be really, really brave on the ball. Some of his passing numbers are insane. He basically had the Arsenal high for every key passing metric that you'd want. Everything went through him, and I think in this moment where I've criticised him a fair bit on this podcast over the last few weeks and maybe months since he returned from injury, where I don't think he really ever got back up to speed. At this moment, he really took some responsibility and he kept the team going, I felt. And we did it again. We started to build up a period of domination, and it was a corner that we scored from and made the game level, and we had a mad 5 minutes, didn't we? So let's go through that corner. I guess the first thing I want to talk about with the corner is the build-up and how we get the corner. Now, it shouldn't be a corner. I'm going to say that right now. I don't think there's an argument really there, but how many of these have we had against us this year? And I remember very, very clearly, and this was the thing I thought last night, when that Newcastle goal went in a couple of years ago, and we were all saying, well, that's out of the lines, you can see that clearly, why aren't they doing something about it? And no one did anything about it. Everyone told us to stop crying, you still had an opportunity to stop the goal. So I'm going to say the exact same thing to Spurs fans, because that is what's been levelled at us, so that's what I'm going to level at them. But in the build-up to the corner, Miles Lewis-Skelly absolutely crunches a tackle. I can't remember who it was on. I don't know if I wrote that in my notes. Let me just check. On Sarr. Yeah, so he comes in and it's a snapping tackle. On another day he gets that wrong and he might be off. Let's be honest. But he times it to absolute perfection. So much so that you don't even really think about whether it was a bad tackle or a good tackle or whatever. Like he just does a fantastic job of getting himself in between Sarr and the ball, and it's crunching. It's a fantastic challenge, and we move off with it. We earn the corner, and it is a classic Arsenal corner, isn't it? It's a brilliant delivery from Declan Rice. Jagisson cannot cope with Gabriel in one way or another. He always gets past his man, whether he outmuscles them or outsprints them or kind of outmaneuvers them. Gabriel gets past his man, and Jagisson, no different. Absolutely no different. So he gets past his man, gets a run on the back post, and we have our men in the middle there. I, on first viewing, was worried that they might call this for a foul on the keeper. When you look it back, Kinski is free. He had done really well, like I mentioned before, really well with all of our corners up until this point, coming out and punching them and nullifying them for us. When you watch this one back, I thought maybe we'd crowded him too much or pinned him or something, but actually we're in there with two Spurs outfield players, and Kinski's free and just doesn't realise that there's Spurs players behind him. So as he goes to reach for it, goes straight over him, and really Gabriel has a simple job. He just has to make contact, and he had a moment against, can't remember, but he had that header that he should have scored in recent weeks, and I feel like this was probably a little bit of retribution for that, maybe, or payback, because it's a great header. He makes good contact. I think it's harsh to give it as an own goal. I think it should be a Gabriel goal. It's going on target. It's going in. Solanke kind of vaguely flicks it, but we are 1-1 at this point, and the stadium comes alive. I'm exploding in my living room, having a great time, and all of a sudden I think, okay, cool, let's just get now to half-time, 1-1, we can reassess and see what we do. But Arsenal weren't content with that, and within 5 minutes we were ahead. And again, in the build-up, another crunching tackle, and that's one thing I really want to highlight in this first half. Something we did in the first half to create these goals that we didn't so much in the second half is that when we won the ball back, there were immediately a progressive carry or a driving pass immediately after winning those tackles. Spurs were giving us so many opportunities, so they were turning the ball over so much in both halves, and both halves of football, I should say, not both halves of the pitch. And in these 2 goals, we create a decisive action straight away. Straight away, we do something with it. In this case, Partey makes the tackle. It's a stormer. It might be better than the MLS. I don't think Partey had his best game of the year, but there were moments where I was like, very good, and this was one of them. He comes in, makes a really good, aggressive tackle halfway up the pitch. I'm just turning to find my notes. And Odegaard receives the ball very quickly, turns, and he's got Kai Havertz in front of him, and Trossard is running for him. He makes exactly the right decision, and he makes it early enough. That is so key. It's so key. So often over the last few weeks, we've seen Odegaard take too long to make this pass, take too long to make a decisive decision and take a decisive action. This time, he gets the ball out of his feet, drives a little way, and goes, Trossard's in the right position. It's a great pass through. And, oh my God, finally an Arsenal player just hits one. He just hit one hard at the goal. And look, you can say this is bad goalkeeping all you want, but we have been crying out for someone just to hit one hard at the goal. Yeah? I mean, this is what we need to do a lot more of. We didn't do it in the second half. In the second half, we lacked decisiveness. That decisiveness that Trossard had in this moment around the penalty area, around Tottenham's goal. We lacked that decisiveness. In this moment, Trossard showed everything that we were missing. He hit the ball very hard across the goalkeeper. Yes, Kinski should probably save it, but this is what you get. Tottenham have just hit a shot from Son. It's a decent-ish volley, but it's not troubling Raya if it gets through unscathed, but they get a deflection and it goes in. We exactly need to just start hitting them a bit more. Just start hitting them and not waiting for the perfect opportunity. This goal was all about the fact that we did not allow Tottenham a chance to recover. There is a world where Partey makes that tackle, the ball comes to Odegaard, and he's looking around, wishing Saka was on the pitch. He's trying to find the perfect moment. Spurs recover, and this never becomes a goal. What he did, was he just set the tempo. Quick pass out to Trossard, and Trossard just hits it. Thank goodness. And in 5 minutes, we're ahead. It's a fantastic moment. Just quickly on the second half, I guess, because we got basically to half time after that. Postecoglou makes 2 massive, crazy changes at half time, if you ask me. Takes off Sarr and Basuma for Johnson and Maddison. So aggressive. I mean, that is so aggressive. And he came out after the game and said, well, we were too passive. We didn't press Arsenal enough in the first half. And I thought, well, if that's your opinion, they are really weird changes to make. Because yes, you're trying to get people higher up the pitch, but if your instruction was, we need to go and press them more, taking off both of your defensive midfielders who could manage us in transition is a really weird way to do that. I can understand taking off one of them for Maddison perhaps, but to take them both off and just to leave bodies in there and say we're just going to press Arsenal in their half, knowing how good we are on the ball and not having a Sarr or Basuma to manage it going the other way, that's a wild decision to make. And I don't think it paid off. Maddison and Johnson weren't effective as individuals, and it didn't really change how their team looked, but it was a full send change. I already mentioned it. We had chances in the second half to go 3-4 up. The main one, which I weirdly am less aggrieved by, is the Havertz header that goes straight at Kinski. It's a good ball in, and it looks like really that he should score, but what he does do is make really good contact with it. It's decisive, it's at the goal with pace, and yes, it's straight at him, but I don't know, that's a bit more instinctual. I've got less of an issue with that. The ones that I've got an issue with, and Kai Havertz had a couple of these, Sterling had a couple of these, were the moments where we were around the edge of the area and we don't seem to know what we want to do with it. I'm just going to flick through my notes. I mean, Trossard had that air shot, which were kind of vague appeals for a penalty. I think it would have been incredibly harsh. But, he drops the ball out of the sky in the penalty area and just air shots it at it. There was the moment where Martinelli just waltzed through the defence after he came on, took on 3, 4, 5 players in the Tottenham penalty area and beat them all. Doesn't square it to Havertz and doesn't shoot. Like, he's got to do one thing there. I think we had a number of moments in the second half with the keeper where we turned the ball over high up or with their back four. And I remember Sterling having moments of indecisiveness, and it was frustrating. It was frustrating for Spurs to give us so many opportunities to go and win the game, or I should say, to go and seal the game, but we didn't do it. We did not do it. We only created 2 expected goals, which felt really weird for how good we were and how dominant we were towards their penalty area. But I saw a good point made online that actually expected goals only works if you shoot, and we weren't deciding to shoot. So that's kind of a limit of that statistical model. We had opportunities to pull the trigger and we didn't, and it was wildly frustrating. The only real moment that I can think of is in the second half for Spurs. Well, there's a couple actually. There was one time where Thomas Partey overplayed. In fact, there was probably a couple of times, but there was the one that ended up in a huge tackle from Gabriel on Solanke. I mean, Partey overplays, they get it down the left and the cross goes in, and Gabriel, man of the match performance, perhaps not my man of the match, but he was given man of the match, and he makes a massive tackle on Solanke, one of 2 massive tackles he made in this game. I'm just looking through my notes. Yeah, and there was a moment at the end, of course, with Porro hitting the post. So, look, it was an interesting game. It was a tense game, and they always are. I think my overall feeling is, yes, it was a bad 5 minutes for their goal, a really bad 5 minutes, but we were maximally punished. The response was brilliant, and in the second half, all I wanted more was a bit more decisiveness in the box. But who can blame a team that have been... we missed like nearly 7 XG's worth of chances in the last 2 games. The narrative around us was really not great. And actually, I can understand there being nervousness and indecisiveness from Sterling, from Martinelli, from Havertz, who have these big question marks over their head at the moment. And maybe they just need a moment. They need something to change for them. Hopefully this game is the bedrock for that. But yeah, that's really my only criticism. I thought we managed the second half well. Tottenham are a good attacking side and made really attacking changes. So they were always going to have a chance or 2 in the second half. And I thought we did okay with them. In fact, I thought we did very well with them. The stats have come out. Tottenham have 10 shots. And I find that bizarre because it didn't feel like they had 10 shots at all. Only 2 on target. There weren't a ton of chances for Tottenham, so I think they are mainly kind of speculative ones, to be honest, or ones that we blocked. We did block a number of shots. So yeah, that's the game. I feel really good about it. I do. I feel like this was our best performance in a little while, and obviously our best result in a little while. I'm going to take a little break, and when I come back, we're going to do the individual performances that made this game such a success. Hello guys, I'm just going to interrupt this episode really, really quickly to say a massive thank you for listening to Arsenal Unfiltered. Here at Arsenal Unfiltered, I do match reviews and I also do the Arsenal Roundup, which is my new show where we cover transfer rumours, injuries, press conferences, anything related to Arsenal. And as you're listening to now, these match reviews, we talk about the performances, we talk about the goals, we talk about the flashpoints and what all of the results mean for Arsenal and their season going forward. So if you've enjoyed this episode or you've enjoyed any episode, please consider going to your favourite podcast provider and giving us a 5-star review or giving me a follow. That would really, really help me grow Arsenal Unfiltered and help me continue to bring you 3 times a week content all about Arsenal. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome back. So we've obviously spoken through the game in the first half, and I spoke at the start of that section a little bit about the feeling around the club and how we needed this win. Right now, what I want to talk about is some of the players and some of the individual performances that got us this win. And there is really only one place to start. Only one place to start. And that is Miles Lewis-Skelly. Now, if you'd asked me at the start of the year, and if you'd asked a number of Arsenal fans at the start of the year, who are you most excited about seeing coming through this season, I don't think anyone would have said Mikel Merino or Calafiori or Sterling or any of our summer business, I think people would have said Ethan Nwaneri. Everyone was really excited about him as a young attacking talent, and attackers generally get more plaudits than defenders. But this kid, Miles Lewis-Skelly, for me, has surpassed Nwaneri. His maturity on the ball, his composure, his ability to deal with high pressure situations and just kind of shrug them off. What a man. I mean, this kid is 18 years old. 18. And he does not look flustered in the biggest game of the season. Tottenham at home, like I said at the very top of this podcast, is an absolute must win. And this kid pitches up and plays like he's played 100 of these games. That's how he played. Let me take you through some incredible stats. He made 33 passes at 90.9% completion rate. 3 of those were progressive passes. He made 5 progressive carries. 5. And the really impressive ones, he made 4 tackles, 100% success rate, 6 ball recoveries. 6, including, of course, that tackle for the goal, the corner. And he made 2 interceptions and 2 block passes. Incredible. An incredible performance. And the quality I love about Miles Lewis-Skelly is the way he can screen the ball. He's like a basketball player. He uses his body so well to get in between the ball and the other player. And he doesn't just go down. We've seen players who can do that, and then they just go down to get a free kick. What he does is he draws the player in, gets between that player and the ball, and can explode out. He's got a little burst. You know, he doesn't look like the fastest player in the world, but there was one moment where he did a recovery run on Kulusevski and just got back, won the ball, and we carried on playing. He is brilliant. And the fact that we have spent so much money on left backs or players that can play left back, and we have Ricardo Calafiori injured out, and you know he came in and we thought, wow, we've got a player here. You know, Ricardo Calafiori against Man City, I was like, wow, what a guy. And we're not missing him. We're not missing him one bit. We have found a player in Miles Lewis-Skelly who is absolutely immense, and there might be a world where he plays left back for his whole career. But I would love, especially maybe in pre-season next summer, just to see how he fares in one of those midfield slots, because I think he's brilliant. I really do. And to be doing what he's doing at 18 years old, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. He's my man of the match. Gabriel got it on TNT and the Premier League man of the match. Miles Lewis-Skelly was my man of the match. I thought he was brilliant. Obviously, Gabriel got the goal, so I think that, or the assist for the own goal, you might say, that makes a really, really big difference. Another player who I mentioned at the start, I've criticised him a little bit, but he had a much better game last night and he got an assist. Martin Odegaard, the captain, he's needed a game like this, hasn't he? I think we've all felt that since he came back from injury and since he had his child, which, you know, we can't really criticise him for that, but he didn't look fresh being a new dad. And he was making silly errors, silly mistakes, giving the ball away, especially kind of in that middle part of the pitch. He wasn't turning the ball over in the final third, and where we can kind of forgive it. He's trying something, whatever. He was doing it a lot in the middle of the pitch, and everything went through him last night. Absolutely everything. Let me talk you through an incredible post by Scott Cannon Stats. Leaders in the match for Arsenal. Most passes, Martin Odegaard. Most progressive passes, Martin Odegaard. Most deep completions, Martin Odegaard. Most XG chain, most XG build-up, Martin Odegaard. Incredible. He had a great game. He gets the assist for Trossard. And you look at the pass maps that we had last night. He was absolutely integral to what we were doing. You know, this is the player that we know we've got in Martin Odegaard. Absolutely the player we know we've got. And he has to keep doing this for me. He has to. We don't have Bukayo Saka, so our one attacking superstar left is Martin Odegaard. And I said on a podcast some time ago that we have 2 real superstar attackers, but they are both creators. And that's a bit of a problem for us. If we don't have Saka, and we only have one of those superstar creators, they have to be creating. They must be. And I think Martin Odegaard had a much better game last night, which was really encouraging. Everything went through. Absolutely everything. And The final player I want to talk about is Gabriel. Now, he did get the Premier League man of the match, but, for me, like I say, it was Miles Lewis-Skelly. I can completely understand, though, why Gabriel got it. He made two absolutely massive tackles, one that we've already spoken about on Dom Solanke. I think we mentioned the other one, actually, from the early cross from Jed Spence. We did. So those two interceptions or tackles or whatever you want to call them were critical. Real last man, Nemanja Vidic style defending, which we need that. If we're going to go and take some more risks, we don't want Arsenal to just passively control games all the time. If we're going to take some risks, we're going to have those moments where Saliba and Gabriel are a little bit more exposed. I think that is a net positive, especially when Gabriel can do things like that. He's obviously integral for the goal at the corner, which gets us back into the game, and that's massive. And, just him and Saliba generally, they manage players so well. When someone is running down the side of Saliba or Gabriel, they may as well forget about it. I feel like the only time we really concede, I might touch wood when I say this, is when the ball's in front of them and they can't get a block off. That's really the only time. If someone goes down the left-hand side of Saliba or the right-hand side of Gabriel in those channels, they don't have a chance. And these two are really smart with how they manage situations. Gabriel, Rio Ferdinand kept saying it on the commentary, he loves just nudging the striker. Not fouling him, just nudging him out of the way, putting him off balance, putting him in the wrong position for the striker or the attacking team. He's so impressive. And for me, yes, he was the Premier League man of the match, but for me it was MLS, but he played a really, really strong game as well, and I don't begrudge him that man of the match. He's already posted on Instagram his three Premier League man of the matches against Tottenham. 1 last year, 2 this year. Of course, he won us the game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, so we are 3-1 on Tottenham overall this year. Fantastic, great to do the double on them again, and I think it's just worth summing up where we're at now. So yeah, where does this leave us? Let's have a quick sense of realism, because I've been very positive in this podcast, and I don't want to have just like a rose tinted set of glasses just because we've beaten Tottenham. We are still a long way back from Liverpool. 4 points is not easy to overcome. If they beat Everton, 7 is not easy to overcome, but 7 is easier than 9, so it is a good thing. We have to hope that, like I mentioned at the start, Liverpool's away games that are coming for them start to build pressure on them, and they start dropping points, and we have to be really close to perfection now. We were incredibly close to perfection last year at this time of year. I still think, despite this win, despite us, announcing that really good news story about Zubimendi, and I think brilliant timing from the club, actually, really clever. A lot of critique online about, is that just covering over the cracks? No, I think that will have tangibly impacted the atmosphere last night, to know that we are doing business, to know that there is work going on, and we can do it without Edu. We don't necessarily need Edu, although I'm sure he will have put a lot of the groundwork in, but we can get things over the line without him. I think that will have tangibly helped the atmosphere last night. Very smart move by the club, and will have helped us win. It will have done, but I still think we need another attacker, just for the bodies. We need bodies at this point. Randall Kolo Muani looks like he's going to Juventus, so that option's off the table. The one that keeps getting mentioned more and more, and the one that I would just love, is Benjamin Sesko. There is a feeling online that it was kind of scheduled for a summer deal, that we were going to go back in and try then. There is a feeling online that whilst it would be very, very, very difficult to do it this January, it's not a closed door. So, I'm sceptical, but minorly hopeful that could come off. But if it's anyone, we just need some bodies. We need to add quality, of course. Someone who can impact the team, but we also need people to just do minutes. We need a Raheem Sterling signing as much as we need Raheem Sterling. So, we need to do dropping my pen. We need to do some business here. So we're not back. We're not there yet, but this is a real stepping stone for us, I think. Something to build off. Like James McNicholas said, and like I mentioned earlier, we have a pulse. We are alive. Liverpool drop points. We take maximum points in a tricky game. You just never know in football. You just never know. And I mean, we are one incredible performance away at Newcastle from this season feeling so different. So different. We are also one good win, I think, with the way the fixtures fall, from being in the Champions League last 16 as well. So if we get that win against Zagreb, I think it is first, we can have a rotated team against Girona. We will then have a break as those extra Champions League fixtures are played out. You know, there is potential. Yes, we've gone out of the FA Cup. Yes, that is so frustrating because I truly believe we need to win something. We need to win something, anything, and we need to do it fast with this group of players. But for me, yes, there is a lot to do. We need a player. We need to go and have an incredible performance against Newcastle in that second leg. We need to be near perfect to pull Liverpool in. But nothing is quite off the table yet. That's how I feel. Maybe that is the, ecstatic feeling of beating Tottenham, because it always feels better 3 points against Tottenham than 3 points against anyone else. But I feel positive this morning, and that's what this kind of podcast is about. Let's talk about it when we do feel positive, and let's get it off our chest when we do feel negative. I'm going to leave it there. North London is red. An absolutely fantastic evening. I'll say it again. North London is red. Thank you very much for following. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.